See what happens.
Nothing happens. That's a good thing.
Well, there is actually nothing happening. Isn't that right, John?
Nothing happens. Nothing is ever happening. Nothing will ever happen.
That's good, you know, and reassuring in a way.
Mhm.
Seeing as a lot of things that are going on are not necessarily driven by the mind's judgment.
Indeed. All the illusory happenings that the unborn child is witnessing and either saying are good things or bad things.
No. No, that's only a mental judgment. It has nothing to do with reality.
Yeah, in reality, there's no attributes of any kind.
Right.
You know, the space.
Yeah.
Space doesn't really have any concern about what is going on within it.
Right. No, just is.
And if there is some kind of personal looking or personal desire for some outcome, then you know there's definitely an I am somebody else that's evolving or being pressured in mind to be created as I am somebody and I would like this to happen, not that to happen.
We can see you better now, Rami. Did you turn a light on?
No, I removed my screen guard. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Yeah, before we couldn't see you, but now we can. That's good.
Cool. Yeah.
You can only see
Nice to
your
you, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just anytime anything starts to bother you, just remember, I'm not body, I'm formless. That's it. Everything that's occurring in the form world, you, after touching with a body, you start to see, oh, I'm this body, so there's other objects, and there's all these things going on. But the formlessness, nothing has ever happened. Nothing is happening. Nothing can happen. Forms are being created and destroyed all the time, and the formlessness is just believing itself to be a form and looking around and seeing other forms. And then saying, oh, it's a world. It's a scary world with all these different people. And how am I to survive? But it's the same formlessness in all beings that is moving everything about, speaking to itself with different bodies labeled different things.
So if there's people that are you find objectionable, then it's just your own, what do you call it? Well, it's first of all like a judgment, and then there's a wishing that that wasn't the case.
And there's an I am somebody else that's formed right away. If you start to judge or you think I don't like this, you know it's a pointer to your own self. Oh, there's an I am somebody else here.
Yeah.
Because in order for others to be, I have to be there first. So
Right.
if there's an I am somebody else that's taking a position, then of course it's going to find an opposite, you know, that's the duality. If I'm thinking one way, I'll definitely find somebody who's thinking another way because I'm believing myself to be separate and having separate thoughts, rather than the totality happens to be balancing the thinking through its own self, and it zeroes it out. This guy's thinking good, this guy's thinking bad, it zeroes it out. Nothing's happening. Your own self, you just remain with yourself. And when a thought comes or starts to get carried away, no, I just remain with myself. That's why the presence, selfless self-intoxication, that's really, really important. You need to become an addict from yourself. You need to be thinking about shooting up yourself 20 times a day. Oh, I need more of myself.
You know, there was another teacher, Jeff Foster, I think his name is. He said that when you're feeling like you're missing someone, he said you're actually only missing yourself.
Hey,
Kathleen, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I saw Jeff Foster last week at Whole Foods out here in Venice. I got a couple pictures taken with him. I watched him years ago. I met him years ago. So that's just so funny you mentioned Jeff Foster.
Oh, yeah, because I thought he lived in England. I'm surprised he was in
Yeah, no, he said he's staying in Venice Beach for a while. And it was so amazing to see him. That's just so funny you said that. Okay.
You're in Venice Beach. Nice.
Well, I'm in Los Angeles, but I'm close to Venice Beach.
Yeah, that's where it's all happening.
I said, what are you doing here? He goes, I'm buying food like everybody else does. And it was just so funny. He goes, I have bananas and oatmeal here. But it was funny. Okay.
Yeah, well, he's kind of recognizable, I guess, but I don't know how many people in LA would recognize him.
But have you ever seen his Laughing Buddha on YouTube?
No.
There's a segment if you type it in, and it's an interview, and he just goes into laughter, both of them. They can't stop laughing. It is so funny.
Oh.
Once you hit that part in a spiritual talk where you're both at a place where you can't say anymore, you just start laughing. It's really cute to watch.
That sounds like something Trish would like.
Yeah, that was my role with Muji.
Well, Muji has them too.
He would use me to make everybody laugh.
Oh,
He would
yeah.
make me laugh, and then he'd use me to make the other people laugh.
His Laughing Buddhas are so hysterical too. They're just, you just know what it's all about, and only us that know what it's all about, and no one else does. It's quite entertaining to watch and make your body feel happy inside.
Well, who was it? I think Beth said she could, if she listened to a recording, she'd hear me laugh.
I bet you could.
Because she knew my laugh.
Yeah, you have a beautiful
the recording
laugh.
of yours, John's.
Oh, John's. Okay.
This
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah. You have a beautiful laugh. You really do.
Or Laughing Buddha.
Yeah.
What if we should, laughing at least helps free from the belief of all the separation and it's all real and all the garbage stuff.
Yeah, all the seriousness. It just.
That John was saying we shouldn't be believing in.
Yeah, I mean, when you're laughing, you can't think about yourself. There's no thought, really. You're kind of in a suspension. That's kind of getting in touch with your selfless self.
Yeah, there's no person and there's no me and my thoughts and my identification and garbage and blah, blah, blah.
But you know what, Trish, there was somebody visiting here called Swami Beyondananda. His real name is Phil Schwartz or something, but he calls himself Swami Beyondananda. And so he's been known like that for a long time, and that's what he does. He teaches through this laughing thing. But he's pretty well known, I think.
Well, the one with Muji and this one guy, this is in India at Arunachala.
Yeah.
And the guy was telling Muji, he said, I just found out I'm a fraud. I'm not here anymore. I don't exist. Dennis, he said, Dennis doesn't exist. And Muji looked at him and said, so Dennis the Menace is gone. And then they started laughing. And then he just kept saying, I forget how it goes, but Muji said, only here can you say something like you don't exist. And they just started laughing for so many minutes, everything they said, because you get it when you don't exist. It's so much fun, and no one else, everyone else would think you're crazy. So there's that moment that's, it's just so beautiful with that laughter. You guys should look them up. It's really cute.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mentioned this once before in these talks, but I when I was in AA, there was a guy that was like the head of the halfway house, and he was the main teacher and manager and everything like that. But one of the things he taught was when you're get angry or you're feeling bad, just force yourself to laugh. And I found that it does actually work. It changes your energy like almost instantly. And it's kind of, a lot of people have a really hard time. They say, I cannot do that. And so they won't do it. But, and a lot of times I don't think of doing it, but it does actually work.
Please do remember too, though, like Maharaj would said, and just as you were saying that, it popped in my mind of these are temporary reliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and temporary
That's
relief
true.
is good, but knowing yourself in the real sense, then that's the permanent relief.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, that's the end. The temporary reliefs are, you know, you sit and you listen to master and you laugh and you read books and you do bhajans and you start to feel very, very nice. But all of those are temporary, as Maharaj says, temporary painkillers. Knowing yourself in a real sense, there's no requirement for temporary painkillers because you know yourself, your formlessness. All of the world has appeared on my spontaneous presence. What does that have to do with me? Nothing. And so my mind doesn't give me thoughts about me because it's not my mind. It's a flow of thoughts, not particularly directed in any direction. It's just a flow of thoughts. And I can choose which thought I like and which thought I don't like based on whatever happens to be in the moment. If it's a thought that, hey, let's go outside and walk the dog. Okay, let's walk the dog. And then you remember, oh, I don't have a dog. Oh, okay, then that's not a good thought. These are just, you know, whatever happens to be flowing. Then every experience, again, you have to have a body to have an experience. So you still have a belief in being a body, which you are not. You are not body, you are formless. Invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. That you are. The entire world has appeared on your spontaneous presence and is absolutely illusion because you're formless. All the form that you see, all the activities you see, all the body-based knowledge, all the body-based concepts don't apply to you at all because you're not a body. You're formless. And knowing this from that formless position, you can use form and enjoy. You know, I think it's, Maharaj has said, you're not like a stone. You don't sit there and you be like, okay, I'm enlightened. I know myself in the real sense. Now I'm a stone. And I don't go anywhere and I don't do anything because I'm not a doer. So I sit in my kitchen and do nothing because I'm a non-doer. No. You know yourself in a real sense. Now go out and use body and enjoy, but don't take the touch. Just as if you had woken up inside your dream and your little dream character realized, this is just a dream. It's just a dream. You know, just like Peter Pan in Neverland, where all the possibilities are open now, but nothing is serious. Nothing is impressing. It's like, oh, it's a dream because I'm absolutely formless. So now I go and I do whatever is happening in the moment and this and that. And if I feel like going for a walk or I feel like biking or taking up exercise or doing any kind of anything, that's okay. But I know deep in my knowingness that this is appearing on my spontaneous presence and is absolutely illusion.
Yeah, you're not doing anything to get something. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, you're getting
Exactly.
benefit or some sort of egoic, what do you call it, enjoyment out of something.
And if something you do is wrong, you apologize and move on. You don't allow the egoistic sense to beat you up and say, oh, you did this terrible thing, or yeah, you said you were sorry and they forgave you, but they really don't think that that was a good. No, take it, touch lightly. Oh, you know what? I messed up. I'm sorry. Of course, be sincere about it, but then it's gone. Because good things are happening, bad things are happening, supposedly. This body is going through and you're reacting and responding in the moment, and something happens and you say, oh, that wasn't so good. I'm sorry about that. Oh, I stepped on your toe. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And then move on. But you don't keep impressing. You don't have to keep thinking, oh, these things I did when I was in my youth, I'm paying for them today. No, this is not true. You're just here now. It's a story that you're a character in a book that's been written in a certain way, and it continues to write spontaneously based on the ideas and beliefs you may be having in the moment. If I believe I'm a body, then I'm going to have the story written from the perspective of a body. Even though the author is unknown, the author has now perceived himself as this John character who is interacting with other characters rather than just nicely floating along. The empty boat we talked about before, the boat is empty and it bumps into you. And at first you're sitting on the nice lake enjoying yourself and a boat smashes into you. And you think, how dare someone smash into my boat? Wouldn't they be looking where they're going? And you go to get angry, but you look in the boat and it's empty. And now you can't get mad at the person in the boat because they're gone. And instantly your anger subsides because there's nowhere to put it. There's no direction. Well, that's how it is. You're bumping into empty boats or getting stuck in traffic with empty boats. All day long. It's empty boats. And yet, if somebody does something to offend you, you're screaming at that empty boat. Or maybe not screaming, but at least in your mind screaming, how dare that person do such a thing or such and such. And that's all egoistic. And when you take it lightly, hey, this is a long dream. I'm seeing all this because of clicking with this body. This body, I will see the world for as long as this body can sustain the essence of the consciousness, and that's it. And once the body is not good anymore for sustaining this, then I won't see this world anymore. But that seer was there prior to all of this seeing. The feeling I exist arose to you, who existed but did not have any knowledge of existence. Invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity.
I don't know. I find for myself, there's like a sort of wanting to hang on to it. You know what I mean? It's like when you get a little bit older, you think about all the things that, you know, you didn't do. You didn't, you know, fill the bucket list and, you know, all of that. So that, where does that come from? I mean, it's like there's this sort of, you know, drive to enjoy the ride. And if you didn't enjoy your ride, then something feels missing.
Well, start now.
Yeah.
Now you know you're formless and that it's just a dream, so start enjoying yourself right now.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's like, what, you know, there's so many choices. It's like, well, you know.
Well, all the choices are within the bubble of illusion. Whether you go left or right, it's still in the bubble of illusion. And you have to take a body form to believe in your non-formlessness. You have to use this body form and say, do I go left or right? But left or right is all in the bubble of illusion or in the dream. Right. The formlessness using form in a dream decides whether to go left or right.
Yeah, it does seem to matter though, and because some things, like I don't care if I ever see Florida in my life, but if I don't go to Italy, I'll be upset.
Mind is upset, no? Mind is having the desire.
Desire.
That, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
And see, that same desire that's stirring to go to Italy, even if it was fulfilled, the mind won't be satisfied. The mind would just create another desire to go someplace else. Or to that you don't have enough money now that you're in Italy. I could afford the ticket and I'm happy, but I can't go to all the shops that I really would like to go to in Italy. Yeah. And so this is Allow desires to come and go. Don't pay attention. Don't allow them to be birthed. This I am somebody else. If a desire comes, mantra. Mantra erases the stickiness of the desire because there's no one there that can desire. The desirer itself is erased, so a desire flows through. It's like opening a window and allowing a bird to fly from one window out to the other window. It just flies through. It does no damage or anything unless the window's closed, and then the bird flies around and starts knocking down everything in the kitchen. Instead, allow the bird to come and go.
You know, John, I'm feeling very bad. You know how I missed you 2 years.
How you missed what?
How I missed your talks for 2 years.
Oh, no. See, again, you're here now. It's all good.
I know it's a desire of mind. You know, it is enjoying some happiness, and it is going into the past, and yeah.
And there has to be an I am somebody else. And remember, past is totally a mind-created thing. There is no past, present, or future. You're formless. You touched with a body and you started to see a world. And then you started to measure time because you believe yourself to be a body. So naturally, there's an object in time. This is not true. You're the space in which there is no time. Time is an occurrence from the body-based. You were born, so to speak, when the body is here. And you die, so to speak, when this body can no longer sustain you. But you were there prior to body because you, quote, as Maharaj says, clicked with the body. And then when the body can no longer sustain you, you're still there. There's nowhere for you to go. You're the formlessness. When you're laying down at night and there's a dream, any of the characters that happen to die in the dream, you're the consciousness of this dream. You're projecting this entire dream. And is the same in the so-called waking state. You understand for one split second I exist, and boom, spontaneously an entire world is created. This consciousness that's here somehow attaches to this body, looks out of the body, says I, and I am this. And that's it. There's no time, there's no nothing. So you can't feel bad. I mean, it would be like saying, if I never met, I don't know how you would say, I never met my wife, or I never met this person. But it's not a, if this didn't, you know what I'm saying? You can't go back in time and say, if this would, if. Because in reality, there's no deed and there's no doer, and everything's within the bubble of illusion. Every decision you made is just a little path that you've walked. And every decision created the experience of another decision based on the ideas and beliefs and concepts that you, the selfless self, were holding at the time through belief in being a body form, labeled Rami.
So, okay. It seems you are not giving any importance to anything. So
No, of
just
course not. It's all illusion. You didn't see anything until you clicked with the body, and the body's not lasting. It's illusory. It's a bump on the road to eternity.
Okay. So the only thing you are just pointing is see yourself as formless. That's it. That's the
correct.
thing.
That's correct. You manifest this formlessness as a sense of presence that can be felt using a body form. The human body is very important, as Maharaj says, because you can feel this sense of presence. In the meditation, you can feel the sense of presence. Well, that's your formlessness manifesting as a sense of presence to kind of guide you back to yourself. The perfume. In other words, if you hold a flower up and you smell it, if your eyes are closed, you know there's a flower there by the aroma of the flower, even though your eyes are closed. You're perceiving that there's a flower there. In the same way, this presence that manifests as this very subtle presence, you know, is arising on your formlessness. So you just maintain that. Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am, that sense of existence. Just I, just I. Forget about the things that are passing in the world. If you want to talk about it in a worshiping sense, That presence, as Maharaj says, is God. It's been labeled God, Brahman, Paramatman, Master. So you worship that. You worship the sense of presence. How do you worship it? You know, it says in the Bible that God is a jealous God. You worship it, only this presence. Forget about all the things that are passing. You remain with the presence. What is more important, the passing things that rust and fade in the world, or this sense of presence? So you worship this sense of presence, and in doing so and paying the attention to the presence, the body mind will feel an expansion. There's an expansion going on because you're taking less touch of being a body form and going more toward the formless essence of this presence. And once this presence is known, then you know my presence isn't every being. The presence is all there is. And that's as far as you can go, but that'll be complete and absolute peace, because eventually this presence will be all you see, all you are. If you're, like, let's say you have the flu. If you're going to work, you're in the flu state. If you're sitting and having lunch, you're in the flu state. If you're even on your commute, you're in the flu state. Well, once you're maintaining with your selfless self and you being with you always, this sense of presence, you allow everything else to come and go, then everything you do is in the presence state. You remain with presence. You're at work, working, but within the sense of presence. And as you remain with the sense of presence, you will understand you're the knower of this sense of presence, because you know this, and it's the most subtle. Presence is so subtle, it feels like space has almost gotten just a little bit heavy. Like there's just a little, almost like a jello, like you can feel the presence through mind and body. And this is where all these activities are occurring, and you're actually on the other side. There's like a window. Over here is the whole world, here's the presence, and here's your own selfless self that's all of everything. That the presence was the, quote, Mula Maya, I exist, which created all of this. But that presence, that's how you invite the attention of the invisible listener, as Maharaj would say. The invisible listener is invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. That you are. That you are is that subtle sense of presence. And that presence is there. All you have to do is start paying attention to the presence and stop paying attention to all the illusory things. That's why it's so important. You say, oh, I'm formless, and the world does not exist. Master says the world does not exist. Master says the world is illusory. I don't really have to prove that the world is illusory. I have to remain with this sense of presence, this sense of I am. Because in remaining with the sense of presence, the sense of I am, just I, the sense of existence, then it's known naturally that the world is illusion, because this sense of presence is all there is. And that's the first kind of manifestation, the Mula Maya, I exist, boom, and it's created. And there you remain. And that's why mantra is inviting the attention of the invisible listener, this sense of presence, that you are that you are. When Maharaj says, I am that, I am that. And we call presence, you can call it existence, you can call it I am, whatever. Don't get hung up on the labels, because that presence has no label in reality. I call it presence because, I don't know, it just, that was a nice name for what I said, that, oh, this is presence. And I told Maharaj when we were sitting there, we were sitting in this formlessness, in this very beautiful space, using body form, and I was like, this is all there is, this presence, it's what's speaking in you and what's speaking in me, and it's creating all of this, and that you are, and it's like, it's impressing. You're not body, you're this formless presence. And see, don't even label yourself as formless presence. That's a good step. Because finally you'll be rid of all this illusory body and world and all that kind of stuff. You say, oh, I'm this presence. And see, as you're saying, I'm this presence, that's the only thing that you have the ability to do. The rest is done by that you are that sort of sucks all of the illusory layers away, and you remain with your selfless self. Just I, just I. And that's it. Then that's what's labeled enlightenment. And enlightenment is just the dissolution of the concept of separation brought about by the idea that you're a body. Because once you know you're not a body, how are you separated? What's separating you? Once the walls in the house come down, the kitchen and the bathroom, all the space is one and the same. So as soon as you stop believing yourself to be a body form, you're naturally in your formlessness.
So, okay. I mean, presence also is an illusion, but you are saying first establish in presence, then it
That
will.
does the rest. That does the rest.
Okay.
That's the main thing, is just to be. That's why meditation is so important, because you'll subtly feel the sense of presence. And believe me, in the experience that happened for my own self, the subtle sense of presence, when things were turning up the heat out here, I'd stop paying attention to the outside and went to the presence. Even if the sense of presence is only the size of a dime, you keep diving in your attention. No, this is happening, but presence. And like it's talked about in the Bible, the God is a jealous God. Don't worship anything other than this God. This God is this sense of presence. Pay full attention. Allow this presence to manifest more and more and more strongly, because there will be less and less and less of you. The presence is there. You're not there. You're the illusory layer. And the more you pay attention to presence, the less this illusory layer will be impressing anything. And everything that's not this presence is illusion. Automatically, you just know. Something's happening. Your boss calls you in and starts giving you a hard time about something. You remain with the sense of presence. You just remain with the sense of presence. Listening to what he's saying, okay, but remain with the sense of presence. And watch how calm you are, because it's like the deeper you go inside the ocean, the less the waves are affecting, the less the movement of the ocean is. The more you remain with your selfless self in every situation that may arise in your experience, the less the response, the more deep peace. Even when your boss is chastising you, maybe you're not doing such a great job, you're deeply at peace. You're just deeply there in that peaceful presence that you are. And soon enough, the knowingness will come that this presence is in that boss as well. This presence is labeled this boss. And then there's going to be less of a tension, because you're no longer saying, oh, this guy, he never appreciates anything I do. And that's what the egoistic sense wants to do, is separate, all the time separate. The more you remain with presence, there can be no separation. How? Everyone you meet is that presence in another form that believes itself to be separate from you, the presence in this form.
So, John, are you saying that the, what do you call it, the calmness of being in the presence has an effect on the externality, or that there's less waves because you're in a calm state, or less waves in the dream.
Well, again, like Maharaj says, it's you that disturb the peace. All the thoughts and ideas that you have about you and how you want things to be different, and every thought is a disturbance in this presence that you are.
Yeah. So if there's a lot of disturbance in your own field, then you're naturally going to see that reflected on the outside.
Yeah, the world is a spontaneous projection of your spontaneous presence, yes. The more the concepts and beliefs that you hold about yourself will be how the experience is projected and how you're believing in the mind flow.
Yeah.
Remember, if I know that you're the presence and I'm speaking to you, no matter what you're doing, I'm not thinking about you as something different. I'm not thinking about me and you. I know it's just a flow. It's literally just a flow, as if it's an instrument in an orchestra, and there are billions of instruments in the orchestra, and each one is being played at exactly the right time, but there's only one orchestra wind that's making all this sound. And that's why Master says you have to have courage. Take the first step, he takes the next step. Because the next time you're in an experience where there's someone or something in front of you, just know that the same presence that I feel in my meditation is here now. And that's important too. When you start to feel the presence at first, it may only be in your meditation. You're sitting there, you're using mantra, you're sitting quietly, you start to feel the presence. But okay, that's good. It's a good first step. Now we go out into the illusory world that we know is illusion, so we don't have to be bothered with anything. And we maintain our focus on the sense of presence. And no matter what's happening in the outside illusory world, we maintain our focus in the sense of presence. Now, the meditator is meditating on the meditation without being a separate meditation. You're concentrating on the concentrator, meditating on the meditator, concentrating on the center of concentration no matter what's going on around you. So now you start to sense this presence even when you're around the people and everything. And then as it gets more deeply, as I said, it will feel like it's expanding. And this is why bhajans are important too, because bhajans help to shake apart the body somehow. These vibrations, it's very pleasing to presence, to your beingness, whatever you want to call it, and it shakes it apart. So the pressure is less and less and less. And as you get pressured less and less and less, the feeling of expansion will be more and more and more. It's not really expansion because presence is not growing. It's the illusory layers that are being dissolved or shrinking on that presence that you are. And then eventually you don't feel the presence anymore because there's no separation between you and presence. The mind is completely still. There's seeing going on, but nothing that's telling you you're in a specific body. So your activities are spontaneous and there's no mind that's taking credit for an action afterwards and saying it's my action. So then it's just a stream. Like a leaf in the wind.
Did you hear about the notebook that married a pencil?
No.
She finally found Mr. Right. That's why I had a real funny couple this weekend, actually, on Sunday, and from the Berkshires. And it was 16 people, and they were all kind of stiff, except for the couple who were getting married. And they just were so funny, getting everyone to get involved. At the end of the ceremony, they started dancing with everybody in the middle of a field, actually. It was just really, really funny. And I had to conclude with a little, they had a dog, Fergus, that they brought with them. So I had to, I found a dog reading. It's marital advice from the point of view of a dog. And so anyway, we concluded with that. It was really kind of hilarious kind of experience, actually. But, it was just, talking about the humor. When it's all kind of like fun and games, really, you can just kind of do whatever basically enjoy it. Yes. You can enjoy it. And, there are tough times that come, of course, but, those are good slaps in the face, that help us to, it's like a checkup, from the doctor. When a tough time comes along, it's like, like the microphone going out with 200 people. Every time we start to use it at a wedding and there's no sound. So the DJ has to keep running in to get the microphone working again. Things like that, it's really they're really good like checkups, like little slaps, are you really with us or not? Are you really working? Are you still there or are you gone yet? Kind of something like that. So, yeah.
Well, and like Maharaj says too about like if you start to see miracles happening around you and you say, oh, I'm doing this, eventually there comes a time where this won't happen. And look at you now because you've taken ownership and doership. So it's like every so often, like you were saying, some kind of bad times or some kind of up and downs. It has to be this way because otherwise, if everything was absolutely smooth sailing and absolutely perfect, egoistic sense would take possession of this and say, oh, look how well I'm doing. So there's always going to be these kind of really happy and then not so happy. Like you were saying, the ups and downs. The thing is, when you know yourself in a real sense, the ups and downs are appearing on the presence. And that's okay. Ups and downs can be out here, but it doesn't have to be affecting you. But it's just like, I remember when Ramakant Maharaj said, Nisargadatta Maharaj told someone, don't say that this is happening because of you. You may see these things. You may even see future events or something like this. Who knows what might happen in your meditation? But don't take possession of this because then suddenly, one time, it doesn't happen. And here you've built yourself on, oh, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then it crashes and it doesn't happen. So there are these little checkups. If you're egoistically perceiving that I'm doing all these wonderful things and I have become this great master, then life that you are through this spontaneous existence is going to say, no, not this time. And then you are like, oh, wait a minute, because there's you there. But if you're not there, then in your manifestation of the experience, whatever the exterior experience is going on in the manifestation, you remain with your selfless self. And that's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says, when people say, oh, you're a very great saint, he doesn't elevate him one bit. When they say, oh, you're a very bad saint, it doesn't depress him one bit. Because all of that is happening to the body and the experience of the body that you are not. So the good times come, okay, it's good. But see, the joy that's giving sort of sentience to the good time is actually coming from your own self. It can't be increased, it can't be decreased. It's your own self. The only way you can decrease that joy is to try and give it away by saying, oh, this phone will give me happiness. I need one phone. Then you get the phone and you're like, oh, I'm happy for a short time, but now I'm unhappy again. Now I want a new car. That would make me happy. Because exterior things that are fading and passing, when you look outside to material causes, and that's why Maharaj says money, publicity, sex, and something else, those are exterior material causes for happiness, but the inner joy is that nectar of immortality, remaining with your selfless self. And like I said, you become so addicted to yourself that you just want to, I just want to feel myself all the time. So if something's passing, no matter how glittery it may be, okay, bye-bye, you pass. Because if I grab this glittery something, I take possession of the body and I say, this is an object that this object wants, and I give away the complete fountain of joy, the nectar of immortality, for a momentary happiness of a material thing that cannot last. And that's why we talked about the temporary painkillers. We were all talking about laughing and all these things. These are very wonderful, and even more wonderful when they come from a position of you know yourself in a real sense, and now you're laughing, 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 laughing. Because there's nothing to worry about. No harm, no, what can come to you? They talk about in the Bhagavad Gita, you cannot be cut or burned or separated in any way. Oh yes, so that I am that.
It's really good to be, it's really good to be nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm noticing that my main problem is that I impart, I have this ability, which somehow I can't resist doing. I impart being to myself and to things, but it's not. I can imagine anything having being, so the being must be imaginary. If it depends on me to impart it, but if I'm just not, if there is no being, neither mine or of nothing else, then there's nothing really to worry about, I guess.
And what are you calling being?
Just that sense of what either imagination or thought. It attaches to a sense of being, that something, that either I or something is what it is, like it has being, like I have being or it has being. But since that can apply to anything, it's not really, being is nothing. It's like, there is no being. It's like,
Well, I mean, being, when it's spoken about, like Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramakat Maharaj, being and prior to beingness is presence. Being is presence, the sense I am. You don't really impart that to anything else. You're not giving sentience to anything through
right,
the illusory unborn seed.
But my habit is to give a type of imaginary, thought-based type of being to things, and that's not real being. It's just.
Yeah, no, because thoughts are arising on your spontaneous presence. If presence were to leave this body, what thoughts would you have? So presence is the base, the foundation. You're prior to beingness. You remain prior to beingness by being the witness of, or the observer of presence, because presence is all you see, all you know. And then you know that this knower that knows presence is more formless and more subtle than presence. And that it was there in order for presence to appear.
And you can't put your finger on it as being any particular thing.
No. It's everything or it's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's neither, really, because in order to have everything and nothing, you have to click with the body and understand the concept of everything and nothing, which is impressed through the mind of what does nothing mean? When we say nothing, we say, oh yeah, that's the absolute. But nothing is nothing. So there's no way to actually define nothing. You can define everything as all that is, but all that is actually all that isn't, because it arose from the nothing. So it's the manifestation, but in order to have a manifestation, you have to have an unmanifest state. Otherwise, it would just be just all. But you can't have all. You have to have that duality of manifest, unmanifest. But you're prior to beingness, which created manifest and unmanifest, because without a body, there's no understanding of anything. All concepts, all body knowledge came along with the body that you are not.
So the definition sort of the formlessness is that it's spontaneous spontaneous presence, but it's not spontaneous. It's not. But what it, if my mind attaches? We'll try to say that it'll try to make sense out of what is spontaneous and try to make some kind of being form.
See, it can't, because prior to beingness, there was no mind. Mind came along with body, which you are not. So the only thing that the mind can do is present images and ideas to you as your belief in body. See, the whole wrong perception is I'm a body. I perceive a world through the point of view of a body, which I'm not, but I get confused and I say, because I'm this body, there are these things and there is this world. But that's not true. Prior to beingness, there was no body and there was no mind. So absolutely, you know that whatever your mind is saying or whatever your mind is telling you, that's kind of the key to unwind yourself, because it's all illusion. The mind that came along with the body perceives past, future, and present through the perception of being a body form, which you are not. You know yourself in a real sense as a sense of presence, so you're the formless holder of the body, so the mind can say nothing about you. The mind can't think thoughts about the formlessness. It can only think thoughts about the illusory layers on your spontaneous presence. That's why it's not needed. It's like, okay, use mind to say, if I buy 3 apples for $1, or I buy 4 apples for $1.30 or something, you know what I'm saying? Like some kind of menial little task, which even you have a calculator. So mind is not needed for that. Whenever you start to say my mind, just stop yourself. Oh, wait a minute, it's not my mind. I don't have a mind, because the mind came along with the body and I'm not body. So whatever my mind is telling me, it's like some guy in a raincoat in the corner saying, "Psst, hey, I got some knowledge for you. Come on over here." No, thank you anyway.
It says, Ramakant says, prior to beingness, well, that beingness that reality is prior to is that beingness. It's an imaginary beingness. It's not really. It just seems like it's being.
Well, again, prior to beingness, and Maharaj uses the example, knock, knock. Somebody behind the door says, nobody's home. However, somebody had to be there to say nobody's home. So this prior to beingness, you had to be there in order for beingness to appear. But you're just not as you appear to be. So this beingness has appeared to you. Otherwise, if you knock, knock on the door and there's really nobody there, nobody says nobody's there. There's nothing. So you knock, knock on the door, somebody says, anybody there? Nobody's there. Okay, so there's somebody. Prior to beingness, you don't know what's prior to beingness, but something was there because beingness has appeared to that something. And that's something you cannot describe. And that's how you know. You see it like how this is. Prior to beingness, you don't know how you are, but you are. So then beingness has appeared. If there was nothing prior to beingness, beingness could not have appeared to anything. And if you were beingness, then it wouldn't be, that would be you, and that would be all. And there would never be a non-beingness, because you are beingness, but you're not beingness. You're prior to beingness. A beingness has appeared to you, clicked with a body form, you said I, and you saw a world. You started behaving and moving around in a world. You took egoistic credit for things that were happening spontaneously that other egoistic body forms were saying that you were doing well or not well, and you went around in your life believing this body to be you. And this essence that's in everyone is sitting there. It's the one essence, and it looks and says, this is John, and that's Rami, and this is John, and that's Andrew. And Andrew has separate thoughts from John and all these sort of things, but it's just the one essence that's believing in whatever body form, oh, so that I, and then my little life has occurred. But it's not like that. It's just like the dreamer. Dreaming at night, you have no eyes, yet you see a whole dream world, and you see yourself moving around in the dream world. But nothing's occurring because there's nothing. But you are there prior, which is projecting this projection. And the same thing, you are prior to beingness. You don't know what's prior to beingness, but beingness has appeared to you. And the you that you are, nothing appeared to, because that you are.
I keep getting hung up on trying to explain the beingness that I'm prior to. And I'm wasting.
There's nothing. Who knows? That's what Maharaj says. I don't know. That's the only answer you can give. Prior to beingness, if you sit there, and that's why it's dangerous to use terms like absolute or para-Brahman or paramatman or something like this. Okay, in conversational sense, just to like kind of label. And even Nisargadatta Maharaj says, there's nothing, but for conversation and for teaching, we'll call it para-Brahman. But it's it's knock knock on the door and somebody says nobody's there, but something was there to say nobody's there. Prior to beingness, beingness has appeared to you. If I ask you to go down the hall and check, and you say, oh, the room's empty. Well, but you're seeing the room's empty. Otherwise, how did we know this empty room? There had to be someone there to say, oh, there's an empty room. There had to be someone there prior to beingness, not someone, but prior to beingness in order for beingness to appear, just like the sense of existence. That's why it's no big deal when this body is no more, because you exist. So this sense of existence has appeared to that which existed, which did not know it existed until the sense of existence has appeared. And the crazy part is, as soon as the sense of existence appears, boom, an entire world is created, just like in Dream.
Yes, that's the Big Bang, right?
It's, yeah, the sense of existence appeared as this, and spontaneously an entire world is projected and you're in it. Just like the dream. You have a big bang every night when you go to sleep. Boom, sense of existence mixes and brings a whole dream world, brings star, moon, sun, rivers, populates it with all people.
It's a constant echo of the Big Bang that won't go away.
Yeah, I mean, because every time existence, there's no existence. Like in deep sleep, you have that feeling of no existence. You exist, but you don't know yourself. So suddenly there's a stirring in that non-existent state, and boom, the dream world is projected. And the cool thing is, you can see in your dream too, how many times have you had dreams where it's like maybe hours you spend in your dream, and in reality, scientists say you're dreaming maybe like 2 minutes. But you've dreamed hours. And this is a long dream. I am somebody else. I am this body, that I see this world, until this body can no longer sustain that kind of sense of existence in that dream state.
It's because of that sense of time.
Well, see, prior to beingness, there was no time. Prior to beingness, there was no body. Prior to beingness, there was no world. Prior to beingness, there was no mind. That's why Maharaj all of the time points to that. How you were prior to beingness. I don't know. That's true. But that one that says I don't know, that was there prior to beingness, because beingness appeared to that. Now you don't know what that is. Who can describe that? That is something that is so subtle that this sense of existence appeared, and boom, a dream world's projected. And now when we talk about our everyday little problems, prior to beingness, where is any of that? Because just the sense of existence created the illusory world that you believe you're a part of, but you're not. You've never changed. You've never done anything. Even the sense of existence is not really true, because there's no need to know you exist. You are. But for whatever reason, you know your existence, and then the misidentification comes as I exist as this something. If you had existed as an ant and were perceiving through a little ant body, you would perceive the world through the view of an ant. But you're the presence in which all of this is appearing. The consciousness has created the ant's life just as it created this life for this body form. But you somehow think, like, you're not seeing from the perspective of an ant, but consciousness is just doing its thing. It's in the ant, it's in the dog, it's in the trees, the birds, everything. And that's why presence. Use the body form. The body form is a gift to know yourself in a real sense. Oh, so that I am that. None of this illusory world is true. I just have to I have to believe the master, because see, if I believe the world is true, every single master that's ever come along has said the same thing. Accept your selfless self. There's no God, there's no Brahman, there's no Paramatman, there's no master, nothing is there. If you don't believe it by now, then you're never going to believe. But you have to experience this in direct experience. Oh, by trusting master. Master says the world is illusion. I behave as if the world is illusion. I no longer get upset. And I stop looking outside and I start turning inward. And in turning inward, at first, because I have the belief that there's a body and a mind that's turning inward, that there is an out and an in, because of my belief in being a body that's trying to find presence. And then presence shows there was no body in the beginning. There's nothing. Everything, the entire world has appeared in your spontaneous presence. Prior to beingness, there was no presence. Presence has appeared to that that's prior to beingness. This beingness, this presence, this I am, this I exist, has appeared to that that did not know it existed, but obviously was there because of this sense of existence.
Hey, John.
Oh, yes, we've run over. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, Rami. Good day.
Yeah.